But Sam has like, long been thinking about this idea of debt is like a bad product to finance people with, right? Like, especially in a world where outcomes are becoming like crazier and crazier. And debt is amazing if you have a very stable job, predictable income, think like a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer, right? But if you're a serial entrepreneur or a creator, it's like, how do you actually underwrite someone? You kind of can't. And when you have that like high volatility, equity is actually a much better fit product. And so I think he like maybe bought lifecapital.com or something, or maybe like wrote his thesis on it back in the day. Again, there's like some lore behind the story, but um so he's intellectually been thinking about, what if you could finance people with equity instead of debt, and what would that look like? And then there's been versions of it with like ISAs and this and that. And so that was like the original premise. And then, then came the world of creators where you could actually invest behind, as creators kind of were starting to look more like brands, there was kind of this need for capital to invest behind, quote unquote, like a personal brand. And so, our very early experimentations were, he had this original thesis that was like, there's going to be two versions of this. One is you invest in a creator with, an audience, right? And you kind of give them super flexible capital to grow their company, launch content, hire a team, start experiment with companies and products and whatever. The other version of it was going to be almost financing like a serial entrepreneur, which is to say, let me just give them like kind of a blank check, and whatever comes out of their sandbox, we will have an equity stake in it, like kind of a true incubator type model. So we did two deals. In the first form, it was this creator, Marina Mogilko. She's actually a fabulous entrepreneur and like a fabulous creator. We've since become very close friends, and she's just like, she continues to blow me away, and really strong community. Like, she is like ride or die people, but like very traditional creator. The second instance were these, they're actually siblings, the Lieberman siblings, and they, I think, are like ex Snapchat product folks, and basically are like, look, we have a diverse set of interests, and we're just going to do like rapid experimentation and company creation. And we want you to invest in like the Lieberman's co. And so, but they don't have necessarily like distribution or an audience. And so those are kind of like the two formats that we were experimenting with, and very quickly realized that like the former was just a way more commercial product where, you can measure and you can diligence the community. There's a category associated with it, so you kind of know the bounds of like what the set of businesses might be, versus say the Liebermans, where it's very hard to underwrite. Like it's this like, how do you even like put a price on a technologist, right? Who may come up with the next SpaceX, or may come up with, a seltzer company. It's like there was no bounds to it. So I think, with this, in the spirit of, let's figure out how to actually like commercialize this product. The former is a lot easier for a whole bunch of reasons. And so let's kind of go pursue that. And then from there, it was more like refinement on the edges of like, okay, what really matters is high value verticals and niches versus entertainers, or, how to diligence the community, and what actually matters in the investment structure. So, introduce the idea of what we call like a ROFR. So, if they launch a company that ends up needing more money, we obviously want First Look to put more capital into that. So we just, from there on, it was more of a refinement of that model versus, let's try different types of founders. So that's kind of was most of the time kind of preceding the actual fundraise.